Robin!
Hello!
And hello, viewing several. This is Kerbal Space Center. This game is Kerbal Space Program. This is another one of our not really tutorials, just me telling Robin something about a game that I know slightly more about than him.
Which is to say, nothing.
He knows nothing, I know a bit. So this is the Space Center.
It's about space.
Space.
That's what I've guessed.
Yay, space. Right, so here's the Space Center. That's our runway. That's the space plane hangar.
That's why is it called the Kerbal Space Program, by the way?
Because of the people whose space program it is are the Kerbals.
Ah, it all makes so much sense.
Tiny little aliens. This is the planet Kerbin. The population are the Kerbals. This is their space program.
Aha.
This is the vehicle assembly building where we build rockets. That's
Excellent.
mission control where we get missions.
The science.
We'll come back to that shortly. That's the astronaut complex where we hire new astronauts should any of our astronauts happen to, die.
Horribly, horribly.
That's the flag pole. It's got a flag on it. This is the research and development complex, and this is the tracking station, which we'll briefly look at.
Okay, so we start with some stuff.
Yes, and this is the tracking station. This is Planet Kerbin.
Is it a tracking station at long view, or is this what we see from the tracking station?
This is we're just tracking everything.
Okay.
Well, everything.
So is that
that's
the moon
that's
going
Planet
round?
Kerbin. That's the moon. As we
What's
can
the other
there.
arc outside that?
This is the second moon of Kerbin, which is called Moonus.
Okay. Can we
And
go
if
further
we zoom
than that?
out even further, then there's the solar system. There's all of the planets. Duna and Joule and Dres and
There's little white dots to the left.
Those are unknown objects. Asteroids is what they actually are.
They're not going to splatificate against our planets, are they, or anything?
They might. We don't know.
Oh, right.
We can track
Excellent.
them.
Can we do?
So we can snap one and track it, and then we can see where its orbit is. And we can see that it's going to have an encounter with Kerbin, but it's going to miss the planet by 28,000 kilometres. So that's probably fine.
Yeah, that's beyond waving distance.
Let's stop tracking that. But you can more asteroids appear in the tracking center. You see there's an encounter all the way over this side.
We don't have to click on every single asteroid, because I seem to remember there's usually quite a few of these things.
There's a lot we
lurking
can
around.
Probably ignore them most of the time. If we want to track them, we can, but we can just leave them alone for now.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not tracking anything else because we haven't done anything yet. So let's go back out and start doing things.
So, do we start with just basically a pad and a bunch of eager people?
Well, originally, yes, because there's 3 modes in this game now, as of the latest release, which was last week.
Okay.
As of this recording, 0.24 is the latest release, but they've added some science, which gives you a research and development tree.
Yeah.
And the latest release adds contracts, which gives you something to do, rather than just deciding for yourself what to do, which is why up here we have some monies.
Alright, so people give us, say, you there, go to the moon.
Go to the moon,
yes.
Here's some money.
Yeah.
And we go, okay. And hopefully go to the moon.
Okay.
So, yeah, so this is our funds. They're called funds. This is our reputation, which is currently set at a neutral zone between not very good and good. And this is the amount of science we have, which is none.
No science at all. We
have
have
no
no science.
So, the first thing we'll do is pop to mission control and get some missions. And here's Gene Kerman.
And he's giving us the thumbs up with a
Giving us
cup of
thumbs up.
coffee. He's enthusiastic. I
So-
like him.
So we've got some missions here, just 4 to start with. But I think we should probably go with this one, which says launch a new vessel. We can probably manage
Does it
that.
have to be beyond like 1 metre up?
It just has to. It just has to get off the launch pad. That's all we need to do.
May I'm tempted to suggest we build a spaceship in the shape of a llama, but I'm not sure if that's sensible.
Okay. I'm going to suggest we start by building them in the shape of a rocket, and then move
You're
on
crazy.
to slightly more exotic shapes maybe later on. Once we've got rockets that fly, okay, we can maybe think
Get the
of
first llama in space.
slightly more exotic things. Anyway, so let's take this contract, which just says launch a new vessel. I mean, it says we get an advance of a little bit of money, and we get a reward of completion of 4,500 funds, 5 science, and 11 reputation. So that's good. So we should definitely accept that contract. And this one, for setting an altitude record of 5,000 metres, we should accept that too.
Yeah.
No, we don't get any science for that, but we get a little bit of money.
Cash
And
is good.
the objective is to go into space, so the chances are we're going to pass 5,000 metres altitude at some point.
That's what is low. What is orbit? How do we get statistics for our planet?
Yes. Well, you can find out what orbit is because things change. But having played this for a bit, then 70 kilometres up is orbit. Or rather, 70 kilometres up is outside the atmosphere. So if you get an orbit that's outside of 70 kilometres, it will be a stable orbit.
Ah.
So, yeah. So this is R&D. We can't do anything here yet, but this is what we know, which is very little, but it gives us some basic rocket parts.
We know that rockets go up.
Rockets go up, and this is
That
the
is
first thing we'll
some of our
unlock
knowledge.
will be basic rocketry, which adds a few more things. But so let's close this, and now we've been given our advance. We've got our jobs to do. Let's assemble a rocket in the
12
VAB.
grand.
And
that looks good.
this is you've got lots of little Kerbals running around doing their jobs.
So I went to the Kennedy Space Center this year. And
Yeah.
It was pretty damn impressive. I would go so far to actually use the word awesome in context.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, we start off, we've got some stuff. We haven't got very much stuff, but career mode actually makes it easier, I think, for someone who's never played this game before, because you start off with very small number of things, so you don't have a bewildering set of options to choose from when you don't know what any of them do.
Right.
So yeah, so this is set up into tabs. We've got pods, which has one thing in it. We've got propulsion here. Fuel and rockets control, which has nothing at the moment. Structural, which has some girders. Aerodynamic, nothing at the moment. Utility, which has a parachute. Those are important. And science, which currently just has an antenna for transmitting science results back to the space center. So let's make a rocket. Start with a
Sounds
command
good to me.
pod. There's our command pod.
So so we're not just going to build a freaking rocket and just So the command pod's got like science stuff in it.
Well, look, it's just basically a pod for someone to go in.
The thing. So we're actually even going to put someone up straight away.
Yeah, this is a manned pod. We don't have any unmanned stuff yet. But
Oh,
yeah,
right.
So, basic rocket. We need a pod, we need a fuel tank to go under the pod, and we need a rocket to go under the fuel tank. There's your rocket right there.
That looks a bit wobbly.
And we should probably put a parachute on it as well, just to make sure that we can recover our Kerbal node safely.
Fuel, rocket, parachute, pod.
Pod. Job done, right? This rocket costs 2,297 funds to launch.
Not that much, considering how much cash we got.
There's our lovely Symes Corp flag on the back.
Lovely.
wall.
Excellent.
Yeah, so
Can you customise that then?
yes,
I assume.
you can do custom flags.
Just give it a GIF or something.
Yeah, you put PNGs in a particular directory at a particular size, and you can choose them as a flag, and you can change the mission flag from up here. But we don't need to do that because we've already got a wonderful Symes Corp flag. So let's launch this rocket. How about that? So to the pad.
Easy. You just chuck stuff on the pad and press go.
Press go, and you have you control it as well. So it's on the pad right now, and it's sufficiently small that it can stand up by itself, which will not be the case for larger rockets.
Okay.
So here's our stuff. It's got a HUD. We've got an altimeter and an atmosphere thickness meter and a G-force meter.
Yeah.
At the top, this is mission elapsed time, which is set to 0 because we haven't launched yet.
Oh, can we do it like time lapse and
And
fast forward and rewind?
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
that's a time warp thing. Down here is something that
Let's
I should have
do
checked before.
The, time warp again.
This is
Sorry.
staging. We need to fix this. Because at the moment, our rocket and our parachute are in the same stage, which means that when I activate that stage, they will both go off at the same time.
So we do actually have to do something rather than just plonking stuff on the pad.
That would be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Once we actually get separators, then it will try and intelligently split them up when you've got separators on, but we don't have any yet.
Is that the only rockets and fuel thing we had then? Basically, like you start off with your level 1 rocket or
Yep.
whatever.
Bog standard stuff. We could have put more fuel tanks on it, but we don't need that many fuel tanks to get to 5,000 meters. We just need this one. So I've added a new stage. I shall drag the rocket down into the bottom stage, and that's much more like it. That stage goes off first. Then when I press the space bar again, that stage will go off.
Yeah.
Marvellous.
So it's all down to you.
Here's your stage indicator, flashing green light for OK, roll, yaw and pitch indicators. The nav ball, which shows you all kinds of things. Currently we're pointing straight up from the surface, which is why it's in the middle of the blue. This is the throttle indicator. I'm going to adjust the throttle to 100% before we launch. This is a G-force meter. That's just a heading thing. That's a velocity indicator. This is a camera. That's our pilot, Jebediah. And
what a fantastic name.
Before we launch, we can even do some basic science on the pad by getting a crew report. So, crew report from launch pad. There we are. Alright, let's launch this thing. I shall press space. Oh, before I do that, you press T, it turns on the stability assist system, which is handy for keeping your rocket pointing in the direction that you want it to go.
Yep.
And away!
It's off. It's going straight.
It's a pretty stable rocket, so it'd probably have gone fairly straight anyway, but the SAS thing just helps to keep it.
Well, we're off the pad. We've got our first mission. We have reached 1 metre.
Oh, we're 1,000 metres up now, but yes, we have successfully completed the first contract of launching. Hurrah!
The pop-up tells us just as it needs to.
Well, it appears in the little toolbar thing here.
Is there a fuel gauge anywhere?
Yep, we're about to run out of fuel. So
that 5,000 metres is looking a bit iffy then.
Well, we've got 300 metres a second upward velocity, and we've only got 1,000 metres to go, so I think we're probably going to make it.
Yeah. Hurrah for momentum.
It's going to be quite close, actually.
It's going to slow.
But
I know.
We've made it. Hooray!
Hey.
And another tick box appears up here. Contract complete. 5,000 metres altitude record. Woo! Still going up.
Yep.
But not for long.
No. Is it just going to plummet down and smack into the pad?
Well,
because it doesn't seem to be any wind drift or anything.
There is no wind, no, so we're probably going to drop almost straight back down, but we do happily have a parachute, so...
Yeah, but I would say the rest of the scrap is going to smack into it.
Well, we don't have any separators, so it's going to come back down as one stage under the parachute.
Oh, right. Okay.
The parachute will not slow it down enough so that every piece of the rocket will survive the impact, but the destruction of the engine will probably slow it down so that the rest of it survives. Ideally. So, let's find out. We don't need to open the chutes yet. We're still 5 kilometres up. So, we can also get another crew report because now we're flying. Oh no, it's the same one. Okay, never mind that. Turn the time warp up to 2 times in atmosphere. You don't want to turn it up too fast in atmosphere, especially if you've got a complicated rocket, because it simulates the physics while you're time warped in atmosphere, and that can make slight wobbliness go very, very wobbly and make it explode. So, yeah, once we're about 2 kilometres up, pop the chute, goes into drogue mode first, just to slow the ship down a bit, and then once we get to 500 metres above the surface, which is by radar, not above sea level, this meter is above sea level, which is something to bear in mind.
Which meter?
The meter at the top is altitude above sea level, or altitude above mean planetary surface if it doesn't have an ocean.
Well, we're looking fairly just above.
Yeah, we're on the spaceport's by the sea, so it's not too.
It is just going to come straight down and smack into our pad.
It might be a little bit off.
But, there's the parachute.
But the chute's open fully now.
Yeah.
So yeah, all we have to do is land it and not have the capsule explode, and it'll be a successful mission. But we're going 10 metres a second, which will probably destroy the engine, because it can't take that fast of an impact.
Oh, does that mean we'll then have to get another one?
Yes, I mean we have lots of engines, it's just that we won't be able to recover the cost of the engine because it'll have been destroyed.
Right.
Which is important now that we have funds to deal with. However, overall
we've succeeded on 2 things.
16,877 now, before recovery of any parts, so we've made a profit on this mission. Hurrah!
Hurrah!
You can time warp this as well, but it's best not to time warp it all the way into the ground because, again, physics simulation goes a bit. Ooh,
Yeah, it has a bit of a tizzy.
and you might explode, which is a bad thing.
Yeah, I've heard about explosions. They're not fun.
Generally considered to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But here we come, back down. There's the lovely flag, wafting in the breeze.
And then smack. The altimeter thing in the bottom is a bit irksome in its positioning. Can you drag them around?
No, it's not.
Boom!
Yeah. That was expected. But the rest of the capsule survived. Hooray!
You see, this is why it should be drifting over water.
Yeah, but impact with water at high speed still destroys things, so...
Yeah. But it would mean it's not landing on our pad, though.
No, but it doesn't matter. We clear all the wreckage off, it's fine. So now we can go for an EVA. There he is, hanging on to the side of the spaceship.
Crawling out.
And so, because he's on an EVA, we can do an EVA report.
This
Yes.
is the most precarious
Most
situation.
precarious situation, yes. Couldn't agree with you more. I'll get him to board again, and now we've done that, we can recover the craft. And that's a bit ridiculous, but that's the first way that you actually collect science, other than doing contracts, is by doing crew reports and EVA reports.
By having people crawl out and look at their ship.
So we got
It's on the ground. Why don't you do it?
we got 12.1 science for that mission. We got 5 science from completing the contract as well. So we've got 17 science now.
So what can we do with that science?
So these are the parts that were recovered. We recovered some monopropellant because the capsule has monopropellant in it as well. We don't have any monopropellant thrusters yet, but it's good to be prepared. And we successfully recovered Jebediah. We got some reputation for that. So, what can we do with mission number 2 then?
Right.
More things. They've got more things that they want us to do.
Test the parachute.
We've got experimental parts tests, which can be irritating.
Hilarious. We should test all of them at once.
Well, that's the thing, you have to test them under specific situations.
Aww.
Like this one, it requires that we be flying at an altitude of 6,700 to 10,800 metres and at a speed of 220 to 620 metres a second.
That's a long way up.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, doable, but also it's not very much money, so it seems like a lot of hassle to set up.
Yeah.
But this one, set altitude record of 11,000 metres, we can do that, because, or whether we will do that, because eventually we're going to go in orbit, so that's an easy one to go for. We should just take it.
Just use more fuel, I guess.
Yes. But with as little extra weight as possible. Anyway, but we've got some science now, so we can go to here, and we can unlock the next tier of stuff, which is basic rocketry, which gives us some more fuel tanks.
Does that cost us science points then?
It does. It costs 5 science to research this tier. We have 17.1.
Wow. Anything else we can research?
And it'll open up more things when I do it. Thus. So now we've got this fuel tank, and this little fuel tank, and this mystery goo containment unit, which is another science thing, and this stack decoupler, which is useful because it means we don't have to drag a lot of heavy weight around. We can decouple it now.
Excellent.
Hooray. We've got 12 science left. We might be able to do... No, the cheapest one is this one, which is 15, which gives us another engine and landing struts and a radial mount parachute. So anyway, we should do another mission. Go for 11,000 metres. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, we've still got our previous ship, but we can just put it over here into this sidebar and get rid of it.
Okay, yeah.
As a design, we've got pod, but now we have slightly more propellant options in that we have these bigger tanks, like that. We've got these solid rocket boosters. We had them at the start, but so we can use them as well if we want. But what we can also do now is under structural, we've got this stack decoupler. So now we can decouple everything underneath the module, underneath the command module, so that we don't have to carry lots of weight around. The thing to bear in mind about doing that, of course, is that if stuff gets completely destroyed because it's been decoupled from your ship, you don't get to recover it. Which means you don't get the money back. But that's rocketry.
Yep.
So, 11,000. I'm not sure about this. It's probably doable with a bigger ship with some boosters bolted to the side of it. This staging is still... Actually, no, the staging is fine. The staging is, that's the separator, that's the parachute. So once we separate from this bottom stack, the parachute will go off as well.
Okay.
That's probably fine, but I think I'm going to move the separator down so that we can trigger them separately. So, yeah, we could clamp some boosters to the side of this. It might go a bit wrong. Let's find out. So now we've got some more controls here which are of interest. Down here, this is a thing that shows you whether your rocket's centre of mass is. Important to keep that in the middle. Vertically, that is. Otherwise it will tend to pitch over to one side, which you don't really want. Centre of thrust is at the engine, perhaps unexpectedly. And the centre of lift is, because it's a rocket, down there somewhere. Those are important for space planes, which we'll probably get to later on. But here we have snapping stuff onto the sides and symmetry mode. So I can set to 2 symmetry, and then we can have symmetrical rocket boosters on the sides of our rocket, like that. How does that look? Does it look like an 11,000 metre rocket to you?
Well, we hit 5,000 with one load of fuel.
It was it was half-sized fuel tank as well, but of course,
yeah,
more fuel means more weight. So
yeah,
and the rocket still has the same amount of thrust, but we've got some solid rocket boosters on there as well. Let's give it a try.
What could go wrong?
The worst that's going to happen is it'll explode and kill the pilot. It probably won't.
Do we have like PR or anything with this?
Nope. But losing pilots does cost you reputation, and I think reputation determines what sort of contracts you actually get offered.
Ah, right.
Now, the thing about solid rocket boosters is once you stage to them, they go at the acceleration they were set to in the vehicle assembly building, and they go until they run out of fuel, and then they stop.
Right, so they just fire like mad.
Just go, yeah, because they're solid rocket boosters. But that's all we want right now. So let's fire all the engines at maximum thrust.
Kaboom!
Turn on the stability assist and see what happens.
It's going like mad.
Much better acceleration.
Surprising, really. We are rocketing up.
Haha! Yes. The boosters are starting to overheat, but they'll probably be fine.
They are going a bit red.
You've got little overheat indicators down here next to them. They'll probably run out of fuel before they explode.
I love your optimism. It's a matter of program like this. Strap it on, what's it do? Well, don't know, don't care, in you get.
And our liquid fuel engine is overheating as well because it's got overheating solid rocket boosters next to it.
The fuel is running out of solids, though.
Yeah, they're about to flame out. We don't currently have a way of ejecting them, so they're going to now be dead weight.
Right.
But we're at 7,500 meters already, so
already.
chances are we're going to make it. Because we are
heat.
Yeah, the heat's dropped off. But we are decelerating, but we can probably just cut the engines at this point and we'll still make it.
Well, we're on 50% fuel. Are we going to get anything back?
We made it.
So do we get fuel back, or do we want to try and go higher? Or is that just it?
Well, we could go higher, but we won't really get anything out of it because we have
the pilot looks rather perturbed.
Oh no, he's perfectly happy. He's fine.
I say pilot. I think he's a bit more of a victim. You get in there. Boom! Where am I? Keep quiet. We're firing you at something.
So we are still going up. So we definitely had enough oomph to get to 11,000 meters. So go us.
Excellent.
And we can time warp a little. I don't think I want to go faster than 2 times. I think the ship might fall apart if I did. So we can try and land the rocket, which would be a bit risky.
How so? Does it involve trying to use the parachute again?
Well, we'd have to rearrange things, but we can try and land it on the engine. But I'm not confident about being able to do that. I don't want Jeb to die, so probably won't do that.
So we're going to eject, are we?
What we'll do is we'll wait until it drops a little bit further, and then we'll
it is plummeting. It's got a long way to go.
Well, yeah, and then we'll stage and drop the excess weight, and then we'll open the parachute. Anything that survives the impact, as long as it's close enough to us, we might be able to recover the debris. But I don't know if the fuel tanks will survive because they're probably going to hit quite hard. So yeah, going back down at increasing speeds. Now the air's getting thicker, so the velocity's actually dropping again. Doing the time warp back down. I'll probably drop the. It's probably safe to open the chute about 2 kilometers up, so I'll drop the rest of the rocket just before that, and it can hurtle to the ground beneath us and explode.
And the people watching us going, yes, he did it, and what's that thing following towards us? Ah, it's full of fuel!
He's dumped a load of highly volatile rocket fuel right back on top of the pad. Oh no.
Oh, the Jebediah is loving it. Look at him.
Oh yes.
He's got a big grin on his face. He's like, yay, we're going down.
Rockets.
He probably hasn't seemed to clock the fact that there is accelerating and there's no parachute. But
well, he's got a lot of instruments in there.
Yeah.
It's nobody's fault but his own if he's not paying attention to them. He's all, woo!
It's a shame there isn't like an instrument panel we can design with one that lights up that says, you're gonna die.
Death imminent. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to drop the rocket in.
Set the pilot's requisite panic levels for different lights coming on. You see his face explode or go, ah!
Staged away and opening the chute. Now we can.
Oh, that's cool. We can scroll like that, so we can scroll down and watch that explode below us.
The debris fall towards the pad. We are going to miss the pad and the rest of the space centre, fortunately.
We weren't using that crawler road anyway.
That's fine. It's just sweep up
I saw
all
the
bits.
crawler road in Kennedy Space Centre.
Mm-hmm.
It was immense. It's horrendously huge.
I think the Kerbals used the Russian model that's on a gigantic rail track.
Oh, right. Yeah. The Yanks use a crawler model, and it's just horrendously impressive.
And debris away.
See the shadow coming down, and
boom. I think some bits of it may have survived. Oh, maybe not. No, there's definitely some stuff left as a marker. I don't know how much of it. The rocket blew up and then it bounced, so probably some other stuff exploded as well.
Bounce off it too much.
But it's fine. You know, the way the game mechanics work is that anything that goes outside of the physics simulation envelope, which is 2.5 kilometers around the craft, if it's below 22,000 meters, it's considered to have deorbited and been destroyed, so it gets removed from the game. Otherwise, it gets put on rails, and so it stays in orbit until it comes into a physics envelope again.
Okay.
So, yeah. So there will be some debris left from this. If we were higher than 22 kilometres and had ditched it and it had dropped away more than 2.5 kilometres below us, it would probably have just been destroyed by the game. And there would have been no debris left.
So this is a way of getting a bit more cash back.
A little bit, yeah. So, you can just speed this up a little. As Jeb continues his descent to the surface.
Have we got any more pilots? Or can we choose them, or do we just start with Jeb?
You start with 3. I've got a graphics quality weirdness in the parachute there as well. You start off with 3. You can recruit more if you need to. And one of the contracts you eventually get asked to do is to rescue stranded astronauts who are trapped in orbit, so you can get more that way as well.
Is that from rival programs, or
I don't know. I don't know how they get there. Well, there's the debris.
Oh.
It looks like the stack separator survived.
And nothing else.
Nothing else did. Go team. Alright, let's recover this vessel. Yep. You do get some science for just recovering a vessel, but you get less and less.
0.8.
Yeah, this is only the second flight we've done, and it's worth very little science for just that, because that's not very exciting and not very difficult, to be honest.
They're bored with explosions already.
Yeah, so we got we recovered the chute and the command pod, and because we recovered them at the space center, we got nearly 100% of the value for them, and we got Jeb back. So,
hooray!
So,
he's practically a veteran.
No more science from that, but there's one other science thing that we can do, which you can do at the pad, just as an example. So I'm going to do it. So let's get rid of most of this rocket because we're not going to need it. Now this rocket's not going to go anywhere on account of how it has no fuel or engines. There it is.
It might hamper it somewhat.
Look at this mighty engine of exploration.
So what were you going to do with it then?
Well, what you do, one of the things that you can do on EVA, and you get control of the Kerbal when he's on EVA. So he's, hooray, I'm on EVA. But one of the important things that you can do scientifically is take a surface sample. And you can even take a surface sample from the pad, and it's one of the ways you can find out how to take surface samples, and you get some science for that. And it's charred and covered with burnt rocket propellant, and there are trace amounts of a conspicuous green substance.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What is this green substance? One wonders.
I don't know.
Resilient moss or something.
Could be Kerbal. Could be Kerbal blood. I honestly couldn't say. And EVA reports from the surface are also different to EVA reports from flying over the surface. So, but yeah, it's absolutely right. A spacesuit wasn't entirely necessary to get to here. But once we get to the moon, for example, then you'll do the same things, and we'll plant flags and stuff on the moon. So now we can just kind of casually stroll back to the ship and grab a ladder and climb back in, and then we recover the ship. Yay! Another successful mission.
Hooray! Hurrah for us!
Hurrah for us! And so we've got some more science now.
Excellent.
And obviously we recovered everything. So, we've got a lot more missions now.
Now they realise there's 2 missions we've done without killing anyone.
Yep. So we've got some more tests to do. Some of them we can do, like this one, which is a test to test something when landed at Kerbal.
Yeah.
Which is a good one, because you don't have to actually take off, which makes it really easy to do a test. And we get 5 science for that. We should take this set altitude record of 22,000 metres. And I'm going to say we take also escape the atmosphere and orbit Kerbal.
Wow, we're going all out.
Which are all worth, and those ones, you can see them. Some of them have deadlines. They set a deadline of doing it 1 year from the day we took it, but these ones have no deadlines. You just have to do them eventually. Yeah. So we've got 24 science now. We can
let's buy some
more
sciencey things.
Stuff.
What we got?
So let's see what we've got. Got this landing struts and more parachutes. We've got some aerodynamic stability parts. And there's a radial decoupler there, which is important.
Pointed generally in the right direction. I like that.
And more engines.
More engines.
And a bigger solid fuel booster.
That sounds good.
Well, I'm going to suggest that we do this test, and the test is going to be a bit, but it's going to be very quick. So all we do is we could take a basic craft.
Right.
And we just slap this onto it in order that we have something to attach the experimental parts to.
So we're just going to go for doing that.
Yeah, and here's the radial decoupler, which is an experimental part, as you can see. So we'll just slap it on the side. Thus, our wonderful experimental ship is ready to go.
It's looking a bit floating in midair.
Yes, the game does adjust for that and puts it back down on the ground.
That's very nice of you.
Which is lucky.
Yeah.
So the only thing you need to do for this test is to activate the experimental part through the staging process, which in our case just means you press the space bar because we've only got one stage and it's the experimental part. So I go like that. Goes kdunk. Something over there explodes.
Okay.
That was we fired the decoupler off and then it landed over there and exploded. But that was a successful test. Hurrah! We get 5 science for that and some monies. And you recover the ship. But I think now it's time to go into orbit.
So I'll go into space.
So we're going to need to... we should probably buy this basic rocketry because then we get the actual separator. That was just an experimental one. So that cost us 18. And we've got 11 left, which isn't enough to buy anything else. But, you know, I think we've got enough to get into space from what we've got. So what do you say? Should we go into space?
Yes, what could go wrong?
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong with rocketry?
Explosions, generally.
So, again, parachute on capsule, very important. And now propulsion. Now we want a stack of fuel tanks. Let's say 4 fuel tanks. And a liquid fuel engine. I'm not entirely sure about this.
That is quite tall.
So we want structural, a radial decoupler. I've set this to 4 times symmetry, so we get 4 decouplers down here.
Okay.
And then back in propulsion, solid fuel boosters, attach them to the decouplers again with 4 times symmetry. 4 solid fuel boosters.
Okay. Can we decouple? Can we stage our main section as well?
Yeah.
So...
yes, and I should actually have put a decoupler up here. So thank you for mentioning that, because we do want to
decouple our
on there.
No, I mean, what can we decouple the actual main fuel section?
Oh,
as well?
well,
so
we can
2 halves.
Yeah, we could stage this such that
It's for like losing extra weight, basically.
yeah, we could drop the tanks.
And then we'd need another rocket underneath that.
We'd have to put an engine here, and of course engines are more weight to carry.
Ah, right. Oh, okay.
This might be enough. I can't remember. I have got to orbit successfully before. This might do it. I can't actually remember. It's going to be a buggered turn, I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's going to go further than we've ever gone before.
Because all we have for attitude control at this moment is the reaction wheel that's in the cockpit.
So basically, the bloke's got a steering wheel. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. They're big flywheels that you spin in the opposite direction to the way you want the craft to rotate. But it's just the ones in the cockpit. There are more under control, which we might have unlocked. No, we just have the ones in the cockpit now. This is our very first.
Just have to vaguely hope it goes up.
It'll go up. I just don't know if we'll be able to turn it over very quickly. It'll turn over eventually, but again, there is only a reaction wheel up there. It's a long way from the centre of mass. It will take a lot of effort to turn. Because this is our only rocket engine, it doesn't have any gimbling on it, so it'll just point straight back.
Ah.
But you know what? Never say. Well, I was going to say never say die. Let's just see what happens. So yeah, here we are. Launch pad. Throttle up. The first thing that'll happen. Oh, actually, the staging is all. The first thing that'll happen, the way the staging is right now, which we might as well try, is it'll fire the solid rocket boosters first. Then it will decouple them. Then we'll fire the main liquid fuel engine. So we'll see how high that gets us. It might not get us into orbit, thinking about it, but we'll see. Probably gets quite high up, so we might do our 22,000 meters thing, or we should do.
Yeah.
In any case, so let's see.
We start 82 meters up, so you know it all counts.
It all counts. Yep, and later on when you get the launch stabilizers that go on the pad, then you can start your rocket like 150 meters into the air if you drag it up high enough. Anyway,
Jebediah is waiting, and we're off.
Just on the solid fuel boosters at the moment.
Yep.
Going as straight up as we possibly can. until we hit an altitude of around 10,000 metres, when I'll start to turn over, try and do a gravity turn,
Smack him into the ground.
See how it works. They're overheating, but they always do. It'll probably be fine. So yeah, we might make 5 kilometres on the solid fuel boosters. Yep. Probably a bit further. Flame out.
Goodbye. We throw them more casually away in any direction.
And liquid fuel booster is engaged. Now, ejecting those rotated the ship a little, knocked it off centre. I think probably they hit it. We'll see. So I'm going to hit 10,000 and start the gravity turn.
Still got buttloads of fuel.
Yeah, I don't know if it's enough, but we'll see. So, start the turn.
It's turning quite quickly.
I'm trying not to hold the button down for too long because I do not want to over-rotate, because that would be bad.
Which sort of angle are we looking at here? 45?
Well, tip over to about 45 to start with. And you see the yaw thing is actually going, and I'm not actually pressing any buttons at all. That's the SAS thing trying to keep the rocket straight.
Yeah.
So at this point, we can zoom out to the map, and we can see there's our ship, there's our projected orbit, there's our apoapsis, which is greatest distance from the body we're orbiting.
Ah, so we can use that atmosphere, that little blue line as well.
No, kinda. The atmosphere is actually up to 70k, and we're not there yet. We're only
oh, right. Yeah.
up. But we can nose over a little bit more because I've brought the nav ball up. We're aiming for the apoapsis to go above 70,000, and then if we can get that, we can try and circularise the orbit. We have just passed 22k. We've just successfully done that contract. I'm concentrating on doing this at the moment. Turning the ship over a little bit more. Until we're flying more or less along the horizon line.
Whee!
No, it's too steep. I don't know if we're going to make it. How much fuel have we got left? We're about 50% fuel. We might make it. We might wind up just suborbital, so which means we haven't quite made an orbit, and we'll just come back down again. But we'll see. Kilometers. Once this hits the altitude that I want, I'll let it go a bit further, and then I'll cut the engines, because atmospheric drag will pull us back down until we get above 70k. So this will go out to, let's say, 80-ish. Cut the engines at 90. That's fine. And you can see it's being dragged back down because the atmosphere is decelerating us. Because we're still in the atmosphere, being dragged. We've got a little bit of fuel left. We might be able to circularise. Hopefully we'll be able to decelerate again afterwards.
Does the planet always have the same topography or layout? Or
yes, yeah. The space centre is always in the same place, along the equator, and everything else is always the same. Physics warp us a little bit.
Physics!
Once you get outside of the atmosphere, the time warp multipliers can go up. We can go maximum, I think it's ×4 or ×8, I don't remember, in atmosphere, and the highest one is really risky for anything but the smallest ships. Yeah. But once you get outside the atmosphere, you can go to ×10,000, ×100,000 even, which is handy when you're going to another planet, because it takes a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all you're doing at that point is basically pointing in the right direction and waiting.
Yeah, you just wait. Occasionally you adjust your heading and burn, and you wait some more. Quite a lot of rocketry is waiting.
We're in space.
Oh yes. Right, so now
so it looks like our trajectory would take us back down anyway.
Yes, at the moment we need to do a circularization burn to circularize the orbit. So we go to the apoapsis point and we click on the orbit line and we add a maneuver node, and it's got 6 symbols on it, and the only ones we're interested in right now are this one, which is prograde, and this one, which is retrograde. Prograde means go faster along your current velocity line, and there is our projected path, and if you just adjust it, see the apoapsis and periapsis swap sides eventually. So if you get them so that they're more or less like that, that's periapsis, which is closest point to the planet, apoapsis, which is furthest point away. Apoapsis is 78468, periapsis is 78193. That's not bad, that's quite close to circular. So once we reach this node, once we reach this node, we'll burn for this thing estimates a 3-second burn. This is the change in velocity which we need to achieve this orbit.
Yeah.
And if I rotate,
that's not much then. 3 seconds.
No, we should probably have enough fuel for that. It's only an estimate. Sometimes it's quite wrong, or it adjusts the estimate once you actually start burning and it realizes how much thrust you actually have.
Yeah. Getting him back down again, is that actually a goal?
Oh yeah. No, we want to come back down.
Yeah.
But a 3-second burn, if correct, means we should have at least 3 seconds of fuel left in the tank, and that'll be enough to get us into a descending orbit again. Right, so this blue marker is the vector that we've chosen for the maneuver node. So we point the ship at that, and then we wait until we reach the node, and then we accelerate and burn some fuel, and then rockets. Whee! So I'm going to time accelerate until we get a bit closer to the node. Node in 3, 2, and burning. Right, this blue one is our actual orbit. We can burn a little bit more just to circularize.
So to get in orbit, do we have to go around a couple of times, or?
No, we're in orbit now. This is us in orbit.
So it's projected we're in orbit.
Yeah, this is our actual orbital trajectory.
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
the
we don't
line.
actually if there's an orbit achieve, we don't actually have to go round a couple of times. We just have to reach the point where we would.
You have to achieve a sustainable orbit. You don't actually have to demonstrate that you've done it.
Yeah.
Which is why we now have 3 tick marks up here for 3 completed contracts. This one, it's confirmed that you've achieved a stable orbit. That's worth 30 science. That's good. This one has escaped the atmosphere, 15 science, more money. And that's our altitude record, which we smashed. Gone way beyond 22,000 metres.
Yeah.
We are currently at 78,100 metres. Hurrah! So now we can go back to the ship and go, ooh, space.
He's looking around all over the place going, I'm in space! I hope they remember to fuel the oxygen.
So, so what we can do now that we're in orbit, is get a crew report for more science.
Very much in space.
And yep, and we'll do an EVA.
Out he comes.
He's there, hanging onto the side. Do an EVA report while hanging onto the side of the ship. He's got a jetpack, so I could fly him around if I wanted to, but I don't particularly want to at this stage. So we'll just do an EVA report and get back in. And you can see on here, it's the report is actually above Kerbin's shores, so if we wait a little while, although it's kind of difficult to see because we're over the dark side of the planet at the moment, then we'll be over the water and we can do another EVA report, and that'll be a different report, so you get different science for that.
Different science.
So, yes, we're in orbit. Hurrah! And so the only real thing left for us to do now is to get back down again. So let's do that. The way to do it, the most fuel-efficient way to do it is to wait until you're at apoapsis and then burn retrograde so that your periapsis drops. Because that's the lowest point, so it's already the lowest point when you make it lower, if you see what I mean. Because when you burn, it always adjusts the altitude of the point on the opposite side of the body from you. So if we do another maneuver node at apoapsis and then drag this one so that periapsis falls, yeah, periapsis there, 23,000 meters, which is inside the atmosphere. 1 second of burn to do that, apparently. I reckon we'll be alright there. So we can do a little bit of time acceleration to get us around the planet a bit. Whee! We don't really have to be very precise for this burn. We do have, I think, fuel to spare. And
it's only a 1 second burn
only a 1
anyway.
second burn, 46 meters per second. And we don't even need that long. As long as we get low enough to graze the atmosphere, we'll eventually slow down enough to fall back down.
Plummet. Yeah.
So let's do a burn right now. Periapsis drops. Well, effectively, it's more than enough with what we've already done, but may as well try and do a reasonably precise burn, which that was more or less. So now, if I were really skilled, I'd land us at the Space Centre again, which is about here, but I'm not. so we're going to come down wherever. You save money that way because the closer to the Space Centre you are, the more you get for recovering parts of the ship.
Yeah.
But whatever, you know, let's just land this thing. So now we just we're in the sunshine. There's our lovely, lovely rocket. We can turn this stability assist off because we don't need it anymore. Time accelerate and zoom around the planet.
As people look up from their houses and go, "What's that thing coming down?"
Thing streaking through the sky, right? And now we're down below 70k, so we've dropped into physics warp instead of regular time warp.
Yep.
Three times might be okay for this ship at this altitude. It's not a very complicated ship. It's not got very many bits that might shake apart.
Yep. We're certainly coming down nice and quick.
So, yep. And the other thing that happens once you're into the atmosphere is that adjusts your orbit, obviously, because you're decelerating. So you can see the periapsis is now slowly going to come down once we start feeling some drag. Starting to get a bit warm.
However, Jebediah seems to be dancing.
Oh, Jebediah's loving it.
Yeah.
It's probably worth mentioning at this point that the astronauts have two statistics, which are courage and stupidity. so yeah, that's all that you really need.
Oh,
so
that's
yeah,
good.
now we're on the full plummet. Oh yeah, something else I learned, very important, which is don't do an EVA while re-entering the atmosphere. Because you tend to get torn off your rocket and the rocket vanishes into the distance and then you're basically stuffed. So,
and then you just plummet.
Yep.
Does the pilot then become a speck?
Well, when you go EVA, you take control of the pilot, so the rocket just disappears. And you're just in there in your spacesuit. It
controls things within 2K, though, as you said.
Yeah, but I mean, it'll put stuff on rails if you're below 22,500 altitude. Then once the rocket goes outside of 2.5 kilometers away from you, it'll be destroyed. If you were in orbit, then it would just continue to orbit.
I mean, what is the control point? The pilot, or is the control point the rocket?
Well, this rocket only has a single seat module, so once the pilot's outside of it, you don't get to control it anymore. So if you have a multi-seat module that has more people in it, then you can control astronauts and the rocket separately. But if your only pilot gets out and flies off in his spacesuit, then you don't get to control the rocket anymore, no. Alright, we've slowed down quite a lot now. We're still dropping at 200 meters a second, which is still quite fast. But
yeah,
it was.
We're down to a somewhat more reasonable height now.
And we're dropping. And I shall ditch this stage fairly shortly. Well, nowish actually. Away it goes.
Whee! Someone down there's going, I wonder if it will be friends with me.
What's that dot that's rapidly growing larger? So, at oh look here. There's actually a radar altimeter in the cockpit, which is here. You press C to switch views, and you can use right-clicked. But now, as you see, we're 2,000 meters above wherever the land is. So,
whatever
the surface happens to be, and because it's
looks like a buttload of sea to me.
Yeah, it's water because the radar altitude and the orbital altitude are the same.
Ah.
And we're droguing it now, and shortly the chute will open.
Splash down. Soon.
500 meters, chute opens fully. Brings us down to a nice respectable. That's the rest of the rocket splashing down. 6.5 meters a second. That's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
And yeah, might be able to get a crew report here, but we already did one, didn't we? Yeah, we'll keep that one. Once you get, we have an antenna, and so if you put the antenna on the ship, you can actually transmit science back to the Space Center. You don't have to bring it back personally, and you don't. Experimental results, you lose some of the science for transmitting it, but crew reports and EVA reports, you don't. So you can transmit them, but it does obviously use up electric power, which is an important resource in rockets, especially if you run out, and that means your reaction wheels don't work, because then it's hard to steer.
Yeah.
But we're about to splash down on another successful mission.
Last few meters.
Team something.
Team still alive.
Yep. Go Symes Corporation. Yay. 50 meters. And splash down.
He didn't sink. Hooray!
No, that's even better. I could do an EVA report from the sea as well, but I'm not going to. Let's just recover that ship. Victory!
Hurrah!
So we got some science. We got 87 science now, and we recovered some bits of the ship. We were quite a long way from the Space Center, so we didn't get a huge amount of value for them, but whatever. And Jebediah is still alive. So more reputation for him not being dead. So now we can unlock this, and then we can finish up. So this one, radial parachutes are quite good for when you want to recover more heavy ships, and we've got some lander legs here, which will be useful, and another rocket. Oh, the other thing we can do is get this other liquid fuel engine, which has vectoring, which is important, and we get a bigger solid fuel booster there as well. So let's buy that, and that, and we've got 52 science left.
That's a lot of science.
Yeah, but everything gets more expensive the further right you go. This one is going to cost 45 to get.
Blimey.
But this is battery packs and the SC9001 Science Junior, which is self-contained.
Sounds like something you buy in a cardboard box on mail order.
Yep. Which and that's another comms antenna. This is a science experiment, so more science, and this is a battery pack, so more electricity. Those are both good things. So I think we should get that as well. That's basically us out of science to spend, and that'll do for our first, now quite long episode.
Yeah.
So Thanks
no one died.
No one
Well,
died. Jebediah
everyone got
remains
back.
alive.
Yeah.
Which is a victory.
Hurrah.
Hurrah for us. Alright, so thanks for joining us, viewers. Join us next time when we fly more rockets into space.
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 Science.
Bye.
Bye.